Hello everyone, a very good afternoon to all of you. I am Priyanshi, welcoming you all on behalf of Solar Quarter and First View Group to our webinar on C&I Solar Market Outlook, Myanmar. Thank you to all the attendees for joining us today. C&I Solar Market Outlook, Myanmar will will offer an in-depth overview of market trends, growth drivers, key challenges and opportunities in the PV rooftop segment, and will brief you about the technological developments and market growth opportunities on the basis of the current landscape. Now, I take the pleasure to thank our sponsor Longi for extending their immense support in organizing this event. I request my team to please play the sponsor video of Longi.
Of the solar photovoltaic industry, G12 and M10 have become the two new silicon wafer sizes, after M4 and M6 in the industry. The most mainstream PV module in the market is M10 182mm module, followed by G12 210mm module. By adopting different wafer sizes, both products have a slight difference in terms of size, electrical parameters, and long-term reliability. By optimizing module design and different boundary conditions for application of PV modules are the main factors that determine the size of silicon wafer. The 182 module is an ideal solution to achieve the optimal LCOE for solar power plants. It is recognized as the best wafer size in the industry, which can ensure long-term operation reliability while reducing production and BOS costs and increasing the energy yield of power generation. The logistics transportation of 182 modules are safer and more economical than 210 modules. Its landscape packaging can realize zero waste of the container space and avoids the handling problem caused by portrait packaging. Landscape packaging also reduces the height of the original product packaging, thus reducing the risk of product obscuring the forklift's view and tipping and breakage on windy days. Meanwhile, the weight of the 33kg 182 module is reduced by 1/3 compared with the 210 module, which can reduce the pressure on the porter and reduce the risk of module overturning and hurting people. In terms of module design, the working temperature of 210 module is 3 to 4 degrees Celsius higher than that of 182 module. Its efficiency is degraded by 0.3%, in which the energy yield is 1 to 2% lower than the 182 module. The 210 module needs to be equipped with 30A junction box, which needs 2 parallel diodes, increasing the risk of failure. By contrast, the 182 module is equipped with 25A junction box, with a mature single-core diode that can ensure stable current with a slight increase by 20%. Working temperature is decreased. Thus, both efficient high-power operation and operation safety are guaranteed. In areas with high wind speed and hail, 182 modules can effectively ensure the safety of the power station due to its stronger wind resistance and anti-strike than the 210 modules. 182 modules can be applicable to different installation methods under various situations, such as mountains and limited land. Under normal conditions, 182 module saves more BOS costs than 210 module by combining extra long racking design and optimized pile foundation spacing. The 182 module is the ideal solution to achieve the optimal LCOE for solar power plants.
Thank you so much, team, for playing the sponsor video. So now we are having a sponsor presentation by Mr. Ricardo Gia from Longi. Welcome on the screen, sir.
Hello, Minglaba everyone.
Yes, sir. Please present your screen.
Okay. Can you see my screen sharing?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I will start my presentation about Longi. So, Minglaba everyone, I'm Ricardo from Longi Solar. We are Tier 1 solar modules manufacturer. I feel very honored to meet you online, and thanks to this event organized by Solar Culture. So Longi Solar, founded in year 2000, Longi is committed to being the world leading solar technology company focusing on customer-driving value creation for all scenario energy transformation. Our mission is that to make the best usage of solar energy to build a green world. Thanks to technology development and product innovation, LONGi company developed fast and stable. LONGi President Li Zhenguo has emphasized that expanded capacity will need to reach the stage of industry leadership before it can be effectively promoted. Over recent years, LONGi has developed an integrated business model covering almost the entire industry chain, from monocrystalline silicon rods and wafers to PV modules. And since the year 2020, LONGi achieved number one shipment for PV modules, and in last year, we achieved a milestone that shipped 38.52 gigawatt of monocrystalline modules in single year. So over a number of years, LONGi has consistently maintained an industry-leading ability to mitigate risk and adapt to market change. And as a part of operations, the company prioritizes corporate financial health and stability, with its asset-liability ratio at a low level compared to other global PV manufacturers. In the Bloomberg New Energy Finance Standard PV Modules Manufacturer list, LONGi has ranked as a Tier 1 for last 5 years, and also LONGi has an optimization score of 6.3, with continuous strengthening of the company's technology research and development. LONGi has demonstrated higher effective risk control and long-term sustainable development ability. LONGi has been rated 100% bankable in BNEF service of PV modules and inverters bankability, underlining its capability in assisting project developers to secure access to financing from the banks in order to bring a consistent, steady return on investment for global clients. The quarterly report developed by Solar Media PV Tech Analysis Team, based on comprehensive evaluation of modules manufacturers' financial strengths, product technology, and product capacity, has identified LONGi as a AAA rated manufacturer, and LONGi is the only one that awarded AAA in last 3 years. So LONGi closely follows the technology trends and market demands of the PV industry, proactively carrying out R&D innovation, patent layout, and process improvements. Since April 2021, LONGi has set cell efficiency records 10 times, among them the N-type, TOPCon, and HDT cell efficiency records are included in the solar cell efficiency tables written by Martin Green, a professor at the University of New South Wales, Australia. In recent years, the international market has continued to raise the quality requirements for PV products, which has created a more intense competitive environment and resulted in a stricter entry barriers to the industry. Endorsed by the selection agency, TV Land, All Quality Matters has become one of the industry's highest competitive platforms, and in the last 3 years, LONGi got PV module outdoor power generation winners. PVEL PV Modules Reliable Scorecard provides the industry with an important reference versus long-term reliability and performance data. The 2022 PVEL Product Qualification Program test comprised of 6 elements, and LONGi reward top performer in PVEL PV Modules reliability score 6 times. LONGi is recognized as a 2022 top performer, gaining the High Achiever status in IETC PV Modules Index report for the 4th consecutive years. Renewable Energy Test is a leading engineering service and certification testing provider for PV and renewable energy, who broadly organize the test protocols and reported data according to the 3 interrelated and essential disciplines: module quality, performance, and reliability. The PV Magazine Test is a professional test service for PV modules performance and power generation evaluation. Initiated by German PVC Magazine, LONGi re-elected excellent performance in energy yield since 2018. So based on the new build capacity and the entire industry chain, M10 wafers was introduced to realize the standardization of the manufacturing system and the application system. In June of 2020, LONGi launched the M5 series PV modules based on M10 wafer size, which leads to the higher power and lower LCOE. So LONGi HAMR 5 based on the M10 wafer, which is aimed to make the industry standard. It achieves the power output of 560 and the efficiency of 21%. HAMR 5 continues the hallmark of innovation that is typical of all of LONGi's HAMR 5 series product. LONGi designed the HAMR 5 from the ground up specifically to deliver greater value for global clients of the large scale and C&I projects. Till 15th of July this year, LONGi globally shipments exceeding 30 gigawatt for this HAMR 5 series product. So LONGi next generation product is based on HPBC technology. Also, it's based on 182 mm cell wafer, high yield and high quality, excellent performance on efficiency, fallback interconnected with high reliability and stability. So, and also the efficiency is higher than N-type PV modules. So why 182 mm PV modules is optimal size design? Module size design should comprehensively consider key facts such as internal materials characteristics, external application scenarios, and the different installation methods. The size of PV modules is not the bigger the better. It is necessary to comprehensively consider the boundary conditions. So landscape package is widely used and verified for many years, mature and reliable. 182 mm wafer size is optimal size for delivering high value to customer with high reliability, easy packaging and transportation, and also easy for manual installation. And it's convenient to second transportation in project site. 210 bifacial modules require the junction box with rated current at least 30 ampere. But at present, the 30 ampere junction box with single diode is not mature. The junction box manufacturers are considering use double diodes in parallel to achieve 30 ampere. However, two parallel diodes will increase the failure rates. Besides, uneven of two parallel diodes will the uneven current. Some companies use 25 ampere junction box that does not meet the IC standard on G12 bifacial modules, so which also has a high risk for long-term usage. So our design 182 bifacial modules choose 25 ampere junction box. LONGi insists on single diode design. The junction temperature, the thermal runaway properties are better than 210 modules in standard test conditions. Many modules type has been developed based on 210 wafers. Due to its transportations and the reliability issues, the 210 times 210 modules are not meeting its marketing expectation in 2022, especially in developed countries. So recently promoted the 182 times 210 series to replace the original 40 cell, 55 cell, and 66 products for developed countries. This product life cycle is less than 2 years, representing products' lack of competitiveness and confidence from global clients. So most tenders belong to China state-owned enterprises. First things the IPP considers in the system design is the reliability. You can see from this slide that 182 mm modules accounting for 81% of total sales. The rest are 166 and 210 modules. So why LONGi can support for Myanmar C&I sectors? First one, I think, is the distribution network. We work with our China partners closely to enhance our local distribution network and service. And also we are open to welcome more partners to join with us and to do contribution to the renewable energy in Myanmar. And the second one, we provide the value added service. We have a strong technical team, provide technical design and also system design. And also we have some partners from the inverters and also cables and the mounting constructors. In that case, we can also provide some resource to give you the integrated system. And the third one is about system integration. We work with EPC partners closely to provide turnkey solutions. And also we have the local service. We have a local team to provide in-time pre-sales and after-sales. And also we do a lot of promotion activities to help our partners to growing. And we can do the marketing promotion, technical training activities to let more people be aware of solar power and access to new energy. So thank you all. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, sir, for the insightful presentation. Without any further delay, now it's time to begin with our much awaited panel discussion, which is on C&I Solar Market Outlook Myanmar. And to discuss this, we have in our esteemed panel Mr. Thomas Jacobson from Indochina Energy Partners, who is the moderator for today, Mr. Ricardo Gia from Longi, Mr. Alan Himes from Indigo Energy, Ms. Nethel Ristau from Mandalay Yoma, Mr. Lei Kwang Win from Baiwa Ari, Mr. Bijendra Basnat from Kushal Projects Limited. Now, I welcome all the panelists on the screen and requesting Thomas sir to lead the discussion. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Krishanji. I hope everyone can hear me. The panel discussion will be ended with a Q&A session, so it's possible to write the questions in chats, and then they will be followed up on the very end. First of all, thank you to First View for organizing this. I think this is a very important venue and panel discussion to have because despite everything that has been going on in the world and in Myanmar, specifically the last couple of years, obviously the push towards renewable energy and energy security is extremely important, regardless of what else is going on in the world. I will start now with a quick introduction of the panelists and with the usual discretion, I will start with myself. I apologize for that. Indochina Energy Partners was established in 2017. We are active in Myanmar and Vietnam, where we have already built projects. We have a total facility of 200 megawatt peak that we are able to build in total, which is already financed. We focus purely on off-take to private customers, and that means that in different markets we have three different possibilities of how to work. One is rooftop solar for the C&I market. One is direct power purchasing agreements in various forms. In Vietnam, that's a virtual form. In Myanmar, it would most likely be a direct line. And finally, battery storage for the C&I market, storage as a service, which is obviously an up-and-coming thing, and especially Myanmar has some added advantages, given that there is not quite the level of energy security that most industry and commercial buildings could wish for. So with that introduction to myself, I will hand over to Ricardo, although you have just heard him, but perhaps just a few private words about yourself, Ricardo. Is Ricardo there?
Yes, I'm available. So excuse me.
Yeah, just a few private words of introduction about yourself. Obviously, we have just heard about Longi, so we're not.
Oh, okay. I will give
Longi
you
or Longi,
the introduction. I mean, self-introduction, right?
And
okay. So hello everyone. I'm Ricardo from Longi Solar. So I'm talking about the emerging market of SEA. I think you know that recently in Myanmar, lots of opportunities in solar, including utility projects, tenders from the government, and also lots of C&I sectors project. Because in the first half of this year, I think the people in Myanmar also is suffering the leakage of power electric supply. So based on that, the solar energy is one of the best option for local people to access to the electric power. And also, solar power is a renewable energy. It can just reduce the carbon emission. So it's eco-friendly. So I come to here and to work with the local partners and to provide more clean energy for all people here and help people to access the clean energy and better life. Thank you.
Very good. And next up, Alan Himes from Indigo. Alan, I've known you since 2015, but haven't seen you actually face to face since 19. That's 3 years. Oh my God.
We can thank COVID for that.
So please, a little introduction to yourself in Indigo.
Sure. So yeah, thanks, Thomas. So yeah, my name is Alan Himes, and I've been in Myanmar for the last 10 years. There's been a few hiccups, kind of off and on, where the path has not always been steady, as I think most people know in Myanmar, that it's always quite a challenge. Indigo Energy got started with a focus on rural electrification back in 2012, and we were a bit ahead of our time before the World Bank program began in 2015. Went through some downs at that point, and then 2017 we refocused on C&I rooftop projects, and so our original intention was always to do IPP projects, but it's quite a challenge to get folks in an unstable market like Myanmar to sign a 25-year deal. And it turns out that they had very good reason for not signing that 25-year agreement based on the activities from last year. And so we did a fair number of EPC projects, a few dozen, some quite small and some a bit larger. So any Myanmar folks would know about the Junction Square project. That was almost 400 kilowatt peak. And then, of course, last year, after the political shift in Myanmar, we've started to do a bit of engineering work for companies outside of Myanmar to mitigate the local country risk, because the internal market can be a challenge.
God, thank you, Alan. And next man up, I was just about to say, Natalie from Yoma. Can you tell, or Mandalay Yoma, as you're rightly called, please introduce yourself a little.
Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much for organizing this event. I think we haven't seen many events on Myanmar recently, so it's nice to have one. And I think, of course, a couple of words about myself and the company. So I'm the director of Mandalay Yoma Energy. We are a Singapore investment from Seoul Partners Private Limited. The company is active in Myanmar for the past 7 years, since 2014. And we've originally started as a microgrid company, I guess similar to Alan. However, we raised funds and we set up a joint venture with NG. Many of you might know NG. It's a worldwide company active in many areas of renewable energy, and it's actually a leader worldwide. And we set up this JV for access to energy, providing electricity to rural households across different areas of the country. So today we've grown in this sector. Of course, we have over 30 microgrids and over 10,000 households that we provide electricity to. And of course, Myanmar, some of you might know Myanmar still lacks access to electricity because only 50% of the country is electrified to date. And of course, there's a lot to do in this space. So our projects are extremely beneficial to the communities in this sense because what we do is that we provide electricity to public places, private places, houses, schools, clinics, and help communities develop and flourish and grow. And of course, the second vertical in which we're very active is the commercial and industrial sector, and which is the focus here today, I believe. And we've been driving the growth of renewables in the C&I sector with multinational and local clients alike. For the past few years, we've been doing EPC, IPP, and O&M services. And of course, we have design teams. We build, we operate high-quality solar PV plants. So you can see there's a photo in my background. This is one of the plants that we developed and installed. This one is a 1 megawatt peak plant near Yangon, developed for a multinational company in the feed mill sector. And overall, our C&I presence in Myanmar, I believe we're still the largest in the country because we designed and developed over 50 systems, and we do solar. We also do ESS, energy storage solutions, because this is something that we have also experience with from the microgrids. And essentially, we of course know the country pretty well. We have internal teams, we have established relationships with clients, and we have such multinational clients also as Total. Total now has shifted to PTTEP, but it was our client in the past. Coca-Cola, De Heus, we worked a lot with the World Bank as well for the microgrids, and we have a bunch of local conglomerates as clients. Thank you very much. I hope that's good for an introduction, and I hope to bring value to today's panel discussion.
Thank you very much. And now from Crucial Projects Myanmar, Bijendra, if you could introduce yourself.
Thank you very much, Thomas. First of all, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Bijendra Vasnyat, and I am the CEO of Crucial Projects. And Crucial Projects basically is an EPC company. We have our presence in India, Nepal, Bhutan, Vietnam, and Myanmar as well. As part of our services, we offer EPC services for captive as well as grid tied solar projects all over the countries I mentioned just now. So it's a pleasure to be here in this program today to share my experience, and then my thoughts, for the future. I think this about it for the introduction, and I hope give some more thoughts in the program later on. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And last man, Vin from Ray, who is also sitting in Vietnam, although 1,000 miles north of where I'm sitting in the same country. Mr. Vin.
Thank you, Thomas. Thank you, Solar Quarter. You organize very professional online workshop focusing to the new market. Actually, the Myanmar market, I think, will be similar with Vietnam market in 2019 and bombing in 2020. So I'm Vinh, my English name Tony. I'm from Baiva, I Solar System Vietnam. Actually, by far we have also the solar distributor and the investor in solar C&I also, and of course we also have a wind project. So our company focusing to 100% to clean energy. We have a global experience. So we do hope that from this online workshop we know each other and learn from each other. For myself, I lucky that before I have been in Myanmar more than 1 year for telecom project, because at that time I'm project director in Yangon, and I also visit Mandalay as Natila is your company is Mandalay, so I'm very familiar with Myanmar. The people, I do love the Myanmar people and the culture in Myanmar. and I feel that the Myanmar, the people also, the economic and the GDP also increase. And of course, when the economic increase, of course, demand for energy, especially for the clean energy, will be very huge. So I think the Longji make the plan, clear plan to come to Myanmar. I think is correct, and also if some global company also take a look to Myanmar market, I think is good. But the problem that I see that the C&I solar market outlook in Myanmar may be totally different with the other country. You can see that the FIT maybe compared with the other country maybe not yet have, and also the electric price, because normally the investors they have to considering about LCOE and the IRR, and also the cost they have to care about the product, like the panel, like the inverter, and who is a partner. So I think today the topic is just open discussion, but I think for the detail maybe in the future Solar Quarter can organize deeply the analysis about the for example, in the next year, first half year, maybe the Myanmar investors they will most concerned about what the policy or what about the global chain and PV panels chain as well. So that is some my personal sharing, and I do hope that we can contact each other to share the more experience for not only Vietnam market but also Myanmar or the other market in Southeast Asia. So thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Just to give a little bit of flavor of what we mean when we say the Vietnam market, because I'm also based in Vietnam. 4 years ago, 5 years ago, there was little or no solar comparable to what there is in of solar currently in Myanmar. Today, there's 20 gigawatts. Just to give a little bit of impression of how much can actually move forward. Obviously, that was largely helped by some very expensive feed-in tariffs that EVN or the local utility is now fighting with having to honor, just like every other country in the world that has used feed-in tariffs. But if we look a little bit at the growth of solar in Myanmar and what will drive it, perhaps I should start off with the Nestor when it comes to solar in Myanmar among the panelists, and that's you, Alan, in case you're in doubt. So, what would you believe would be the key growth drivers for solar in Myanmar in the moving forward?
Sure. Yeah, so I'd say pre-COVID, pre-coup, it was the same as everywhere else, right? So people are interested in stable electricity pricing, greenhouse gas reductions, etc. But really post-coup, the political situation has made the electrical grid a bit unstable. The diesel supply has also become unstable, uncertain. There are shortages or perceived shortages, and true or not, the perception is really what matters when it comes to the price. So diesel price is up, and so as a result of that, so when you combine poor electrical quality from the grid and high diesel pricing, then you do see a lot of folks who are more motivated now than they were. So so I think those are the kind of the macro points in Myanmar these days that are driving demand. Although of course there's headwinds with foreign exchange issues, import issues. Political risk issues, right? I mean, they go on and on for Myanmar. But on the positive side of the ledger, then the kind of the macro environment driving these particular points around diesel and energy security.
Very good, Mr. Vin. Now, given that have the experience of Vietnam, where, of course, there is not an energy security issue. The lights come on every time we press on the button on the wall, and power outs, whether as blackouts or brownouts, are more or less unknown here and have been for the last 10 years at least, as far as I can remember. Um, from your perspective and with the Vietnam experience in mind, what do you think will be the growth drivers for Myanmar?
Thank you for the question. I think if apply from Vietnam, we can look back and answer that's why the solar market booming after FIT 1 and FIT 2 approved in April. Because at that time, the first is about the COVID happened, and also a lot of investor is looking for opportunity to invest. And solar rooftop is one kind of invest, and they think that's a way for business is also can quickly to get back the money about 5 year or 6 year. That's the way the businessman always looking for the where is the cut we can cook and where we can get back the total invest. So they think that the solar is a quick develop and quick return. But actually the electric system is totally different with the other business. You can see that the telecom market in Myanmar also booming in 2017 and 18, and at that time a lot of the foreigner company also think that Myanmar is is a golden area, and the Ooredoo or Telenor also have to quit the market there. So I think that Vietnam also the one lesson learned to apply in the other country. But I do think that investor will carefully to analyze this market, especially for C&I. But I do think that the C&I still is a demand there in Myanmar, because the solar, I mean the ash in Myanmar is good compared with the other country. And if install the solar system in Yangon or in Mandalay or the other region, I think for the solar the ash system, I think is okay. So the key thing that the investor meet the supplier with investor is together to make sure that delivery the solar system to the right market, and the right the demand on the market. Do not only invest a lot and then after that maybe the same in event in Vietnam cut off the electric in daytime, and we have to think about now about the BSS system to keep the storage the energy, and we export to the system in nighttime. So I think C&I is very special because the self consumption is the key. And you can see now, even though FIT in Vietnam, the C&I market still running in Vietnam. So I think that in Myanmar also the same. But only the key thing that's how the supplier and the EPC and the partner is meet the right company, right person, and right investor to support them together to bring to them the future system, but they can apply immediately. The solar renewable is the future system, but actually we can use right after we install. Thank you.
I noted one difference in the way that you both answered the question, and I actually expected it. That the Myanmar answer was very commercial oriented. That's also how I experience Myanmar, whereas the Vietnam answer was very regulatory oriented, feed-in tariffs, regulations, that sort of thing. And that is also how I perceive a major difference between markets. If we dive a little bit deeper into the C&I segment, and look at the different business models there. Natalie, as not only the self-proclaimed market leader, but I think everybody on this panel will agree that Mandalay Yoma is the market leader in the C&I market in Myanmar. Then what do you see of business models to be used in Myanmar for the C&I segment?
Thank you, Thomas. Um, Right now, I would say that the best model in Myanmar currently has become the capex model, which is the investment, as businesses can really reap off the rewards of solar power pretty quickly. So in the past, the fluctuation of chats before the coup was significantly less. Although even during the time that I stayed in Myanmar, the chat has progressively lost value over the period of 5 years. However, what we see now is definitely more significant in terms of devaluation. So, of course, for any investor coming from the outside, it's a lot more challenging to kind of bet on Myanmar and get the rewards inside the country. In addition to that, of course, you have to, if you wish to take the capital out of the country, that is another challenge, and which is why definitely capex would be a lot more better as a choice right now. So I would actually even say that solar is one of the best investments available in Myanmar in the current economic context. It is due to the fact that there are, as I mentioned, limitations on inflows and outflows of capital. And what we mentioned earlier is that the availability of power remains insufficient for most businesses. So we saw a lot of that earlier in the first quarter of this year. We had clients running diesel generators for the significant part of the day, which of course resulted in much higher operational costs. So overall, just to sum it up, capex, definitely capex, and what we're looking at is 3 to 4 year payback, depending on what the power mix, the energy mix of the customer is.
Yeah, that sounds very correct. I would agree. The sound of a diesel generator is sort of the solar industry's wet dream because it simply lowers the payback time, whether it's on an IPP basis, PPA, or a capex model. Fully agree. And Bijandra, could you add a little bit your perspective on the business models that could be used for the C&I segment in Myanmar?
Yes, definitely. What the CNI, the market is, concerned, I see a great, potential, especially because the energy portfolio of, Myanmar, I see that the country as a whole is, underpowered. And as for, the data of like, a few years back, there was a study from the ADB bank. I think the data said something like 34% of the population had access to electricity. Okay, and while saying that, I'm also reminded of saying that economic prosperity is directly proportional to the energy. So no economic prosperity is actually possible without energy supply that is in par. So if we are looking at the economic prosperity, we have to have sufficient energy supply, and and we cannot there cannot be a greater dependence on the grid power. So in that context, I think the CNI market, it has a very a big potential, so that the confidence level also it can be built through the CNI. Then it can be gradually moved on to the grid level, the utility scale. So definitely it has a very big market, and the potential is also there. The only thing is that, as far as the challenge is concerned, the cost of doing business, and then the how the lack of like the government policies that also needs to be
Very good. We're just under halfway through the panel discussion. I just remind the audience that there will be a Q&A at the end, so please do log your questions in, and then Priyansha, she will make a summary of questions for us at the very end. I will just throw out one question now that we're halfway. Does anybody see a din tariff style regime coming in Myanmar anytime soon? Natalie Allen, perhaps? Win?
Sorry, Thomas, what kind of tariff?
A feed-in tariff
Oh,
for rooftop solar for primarily for excess power, so that if a factory does not operate on a Sunday, that power is not wasted. Does it see that happening anytime soon in Vietnam, like it did in Vietnam? In Myanmar, like it did in Vietnam, and actually meant that 10 of the 20 gigawatts we have of solar is officially considered to be a rooftop solar.
I think, Thomas, you're right. This would be something which would definitely facilitate the development of the market, and especially of the C&I market in Myanmar. When we look at the region, very few are the countries where the government has not looked at that earlier. And actually, Myanmar has looked at it, and there was ongoing work previously with the World Bank on the same. There were advisors from JICA, I believe, from ADB as well, leaning for the same. However, with the transition in power which took place, all those discussions with multilaterals have been put on hold. So as for the immediate introduction of these measures or short-term introduction, I wouldn't think so. I haven't seen that happening. Perhaps other panelists have different views on that.
I would definitely agree, but I would even go stronger and say that there is a 0% chance in the next 5 years of any sort of feed-in tariff to stimulate the C&I market. I would say even before the coup, there was probably less than a 20% chance of it happening within 5 years, just based on the inertia that is Naypyidaw, the capital where all the decisions are made. So despite the good intentions and probably good advice from multinationals, then things are slow in Myanmar, even in the best of times, and these are not the best of times. So my vote is a 0% chance in the next 5 years.
I think you're spot on. And to follow up on Natalie, it might actually not even be necessary, because if the cost of solar already now is so far below real grid parity, meaning including diesel generators, which, as we agreed on earlier, are running nearly non-stop, then it makes little sense. There is the argument for putting more power into the grid and therefore offering a very small tariff, 3, 4, 5 cents, which is not something that is going to be pivotal to anyone's investment decision, but might just mean that we build a little bit bigger and thereby export a little bit of power out into the grid. And at 3, 4, 5 cents, I don't think you're going to make cheaper power by LNG or any other source known to man than that. Okay, if we move a little bit now, because we're talking LCOE, we're talking grid parity, not need of feed-in tariffs, and that perhaps leads us very good to you, Ricardo. If you could talk a little bit without repeating yourself from before about what can be done on modules and inverters primarily, but also the rest of the system, obviously, to ensure that we have as low an LCOE, levelized cost of energy, as possible.
Yeah, thank you, Thomas, for these questions. I have something to share with you. There are multiple factors that can help achieve lower LCOE, either reduce capex or generate more power. So developers need to find the balance. Breaking up into two sections by reducing capex, there is not much a module bank like Longi can can offer. As we all know that the rooftop has limited areas. Most of the projects will support install as many panels as possible. Unlike utility projects, the design is rather simple for the C&I project, so there is not much room to reduce the BOS cost in rooftop system design. So from my perspective, the optimal way to that any developer or EPC can do to lower LCOE is to boost the power generation. In a tropical country like Myanmar, when we choose the solar modules, we should look at the module efficiency and also the degradation data. In a limited area like the C&I, the higher the module's efficiency is, and the higher the power output can be achieved in general speaking. So you can probably find out that some in the market that the 630 watt modules in the market, but if you look at the efficiency, it's still just the 21.3, and it's very heavy and too big to carry on to the rooftop. You know that for some rooftop system is a tall building or some of the factories, so it's not convenient to carry out. So we do offer different technology roadmaps that helps our C&I customer. So we right now our 550 watt with 21.5 efficiency, and the coming up new product which it will have the higher efficiency available in the market. And in terms of degradation, Longis new tech and Untapped token has the same degradation data, and our new product will have the lowest time coefficient data, which is ideal for tropical climates. For internal simulation, by using our new product, we can achieve around 4% more energy yield from the compared with the 630 watt modules. That's 4% more income, and will definitely make the LCOE look better. So I'm not going to much details due to this time limit. If you are interested to know more, feel free. We can contact with me afterwards, so I can run the section with your team for an open discussion. And hopefully, maybe in the Q4, our new product will launch into market. I will, aggressively to introduce a new product to in Myanmar to have more people get a better solar energy. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Ricardo. It's all about the LCOE.
Yeah.
Very good. If we move now towards the tariff regime, not feed-in tariffs, but the rest of the tariffs that exist in an energy market, where do we think that the tariffs will go for this C&I? And perhaps, Alan, you could start by just for those who don't understand how the Burmese tariff system works, depending on your total consumption and slightly different pricing. And then perhaps together with Natalie, talk a little bit about the history of the tariffs and how they have gone up and down, measured in US dollars, etc.
Sure. So the the structure of the tariff in Myanmar is a little tricky, although it's a bit simpler than it used to be. But essentially, it's a tiered structure. So the more kilowatt hours you use, the higher per kilowatt hour cost you have. And but it quite quickly gets to 180 chot per kilowatt hour. So it steps up. And I think it maxes. I think it gets to 180 chot per kilowatt hour at around 100,000 units per month. So most factories get there, or they get pretty close, because the steps are actually not that big. The 5 or 10 shot steps as they go up. So and that changed in 2019. So in I think it was July 2019. That was a happy day for the solar space in Myanmar. I remember doing a little dance whenever I heard about the price change. Because before there was actually a volume discount, so the price went up, it stepped up, but then at I think 300,000 units, it stepped back down, right? Ironically enough, so the more energy you use, the better your price, which could make sense in some economies of scale, but the economic fundamentals were simply not behind that, so it actually did not make sense for Myanmar at the time, and it was quite quite difficult for solar projects. And so you hear a lot, and so going forward, you hear a lot of rumors about energy pricing going up. We haven't seen anything substantial in terms of that. So the grid, by energy price, I mean the grid price, because I think it would be deeply unpopular. I mean, it's not as if the current Myanmar government is popular in the first place, but they would upset even more folks. However, even before the coup, there was some talk that while the price hike in 2019 was positive for the sector, just for actually positive for the ministry to be solvent, it wasn't enough even then, and so now it's even worse. And I'm sure that they need to do it since there are all kinds of other issues with tariff or bill collection due to people refusing to pay the military government. So I think that eventually the price will go up. It will probably happen in a very sudden and non-transparent way, would be my guess, just based on the way the Myanmar government works anyway, right? Coup or no coup. And it will be, but probably not very soon. If I had to guess, I would say within, not sooner than 1 year, just because it would be quite an emotional. People are already emotional about the Myanmar government, so this would just provide more emotional fuel to the flame.
And those of us who don't do all our shopping in chat on a daily basis, if I am a factory, what am I roughly paying in US cents per kilowatt hour?
Right. So if you're thinking 180 chot, let's see, depends on what kind of exchange rate you can get. So that's a bit tricky. So the official central bank of Myanmar rate at the moment is 2,100 chot per dollar. So if you think about 180 chot, you're looking at about 10. What is that? About 10 cents. 180 divided by 2100.
Yeah, 9. Yeah. And I think the 2019 price increase, that was to bring the prices up to the level that they had been back, let's say 14, 15, 16, before the slide of the chat. So those 35% more or less covered the of price increase in chat in 19, more or less covered the slide, give or take, of the chat against the dollar, because at the end of the day, we're a dollar economy. Natalie, how do you see the future of the energy price? And again, with the caveats that all energy in in Myanmar is not gotten through the grid. There's also a diesel power, for example, that is needed. How do you see the energy cost in the future in Myanmar?
Yes, Thomas. So just to, I think, add on to what Alan was saying earlier, the current electricity tariffs for the C&I customers are still one of the lowest in the region. So, when we put it in perspective, it's pretty low. With the current exchange rate, it's actually, I think, 7 cents with the market exchange rate. So 7 cents US for the commercial customers. My view has been shaped by the availability of information out there and the economic forecasts that I have seen. I think that generally the tariffs are predicted to rise. The reason for that, the main reason is the fact that there is not enough available power. So there is an issue with the installed capacity. The installed capacity, which is there, which is also one of the lowest in the region, it's only about 4 gigawatts. Even that is not fully available. And this year, as we mentioned earlier in Q1, there was about 40% reduction in the generation capacity. So the demand could not be met, not only for the C&I customers, but also for the residential customers. So there is that. And of course, if we look at the economic figures, the World Bank, for instance, predicts that the power shortages will continue all the way up to 24. And, this is the kind of horizon that people are looking at right now. Beyond that, it's hard to make a guess what is happening, considering the political situation. That is the issue. Then, in addition to that, there is also the internal funding issue for the Ministry of Electricity and Energy, because of course there have been boycotts of electricity bills by the population and even by some businesses also. So with all of this in mind, MOE would have to raise the tariffs to replenish the pockets and, to kind of stay sustainable to a certain extent.
Yes, I agree at 7-8 cents. Obviously, what's it called now? The Yangon electricity supply company is obviously not making a hell of a lot of money on supplying that electricity. That's clear for everyone. Very good. If we go a little bit back into the regulatory, so now we've discussed some of the commercial aspects of solar, and they are bright because although the grid power is cheap, then the real cost of power in Myanmar is relatively expensive, and power is not always readily available. Um, and I think that the power situation will be poor for a long, long time. It normally is when countries start growing. Vin, if we go a little bit back to now the regulatory frameworks, the issues that can be faced when trying to do construction and execution in Myanmar, and maybe a little bit comparing that to a market that did in 3 years go from 0 to 20 gigawatts, where the first year and a half we actually did not have any regulations. Could you speak a little bit to that, Vin?
Hi, Thomas. You asking me?
Dumroy, yes, sir.
Very difficult question. Very high level question because I'm low level, so maybe I only answer based on my understanding. I think regarding about the construction, that one is also very important for any solar project, not only solar farm but also C&I. And you know that for C&I segment, before we do the installation, any PV panel or inverter, the investor and the EPC have to do the analysis, the roof, and also the factory with some the policy from government. I don't know how about the government in Myanmar, but as in Vietnam, when we want to install something on the rooftop on factory, we have to apply many things like the work permission, like the fire system application, and so on. And also now we have to connect to grid. So the construction is have a many meaning from the site acquisition, from the negotiation, the contract PPA, and also from the permission to connect to grid. Because as you know, that solar system we cannot install the off-grid system, right? We have to connect to the on-grid system. So that's one now in Vietnam is many the investor facing this issue, and sometimes we have to also install the zero export system. So that's one also, as mentioned from beginning, sometime in daytime the solar system generate the power, but we don't export because no FIT fit in tariff. So that's one in Myanmar. I think the government can take a look in the other country and study and build the policy, and after that apply to the Myanmar C&I segment. And of course, if the one factory install the solar system with the high quality for construction and with the solar energy daytime, and it could be the self consumption, or if the factory don't use 100%, still can have some the fit in tariff to export to system, because you know that the factory maybe the big kit maybe 10 megawatt or less than 10 megawatt, so still the electric system transportation it's not like the solar farm like the 50 megawatt or 100 megawatt, or even in 2020 I delivered the 600 megawatts pitch project solar farm. So that's what will bring the more the difficulty for the A0 in Vietnam. So this is my only a little bit understanding, because this one is a very difficult question. And I maybe I also need to apply labs earlier, because I feel hot, and I need to go to hospital now to check maybe COVID happened for me.
Oh my goodness, I hope we're not seeing a COVID case in action live on TV. Well, you saw it here first, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Alan, can I just jump to you before I go to Bajindra? Because in Vietnam, as Vin correctly said before, we at a certain time were not allowed to sell power to the grid, but we were still allowed to supply it. And then, for some strange reason, we were no longer allowed to even supply it free of charge. So there are actually two different sets of systems that are used in Vietnam. One is where you still supply power free of charge, and one where you actually have a zero export blocker. What do you see in Myanmar? Because I know you've installed obviously a system for me, but I will keep that confidential what we use there.
Sure. So I think it depends on the on this on the system. There's really a I mean, part of the nice things, the beauty and the curse of Myanmar is the lack of regulation. So you don't really have to ask too many questions and ask for permission from too many people to do things. So in terms of solar, quite often it's treated as a diesel generator, which doesn't have a whole lot of I mean, everybody has a diesel generator and nobody gets a permit for it, right? So that's in general how it's treated. I would say that maybe more people. I guess we all try not to make a donation of extra electricity to the grid. Nobody's feeling very generous towards the electric company in Myanmar. So I would say in general it's a zero. The default is a zero export situation. Sometimes you can have your meter act up whenever you do try to. The meters are not really bidirectional, and therefore they do freak out whenever you feed power back through them, which sometimes runs your meter the wrong way, right? So in general, I would say we default towards zero export, unless there's some special reason.
Yeah, I would imagine that factories might get a problem if all of a sudden they were shut for a month, and then the electricity board comes and makes a reading, and then the meter has fallen. Um, but on the system you and I made together, we do actually let the meter run backwards. But
Yeah, that's
so,
that's a special case, I guess. Yeah,
yeah, that's
it's
a
a different
special case.
area than most places. Yeah.
Very good. Bijandra, what is your experience on the more regulatory framework for construction and implementation of systems here in Myanmar?
Definitely, as Alan said, I mean, the lack of regulation is definitely a blessing in disguise, in my opinion. But I don't think this will be the case, going forward. I'm sure, I mean, there will be more stricter regulations in place. But at the same time, and the stakeholders and the developers need to be up to the mark in terms of like meeting the regulatory requirements. And there could be like something like the reactive power compensation factor in order to maintain the proper voltage and the system. That could be required. I don't think something like this is a requirement at the moment. But I can see something like this coming up in the future. But it all depends on how the energy demand grows in the future, and what sort of challenges it brings. So I think it'll be all open to that. But definitely as developers, and then as EPC contractors, and as consultants, we all need to be open and be able to um, accept the challenge, and make the changes.
Okay, sorry, I was just trying to get my computer to let me see the questions so we could slowly transition over to them. We have a few questions. Um, Priyanshi, are there more questions, just so I timed this correctly, than the one, two, three, four questions that are up in the Q&A? Are there also questions in the chat box?
No, sir, we have them in the Q&A box, so I will display it on the stage.
Okay, so if you could display them one at a time, and then we could see
Sure.
who might want something. That might be Natalie. Oh, sorry. Am I? That might be Natalie. Would you take a stab at that? Are there any incentives from the government of any kind when you do either C&I or, as this could also be, utility scale?
Um, at the moment, there are no incentives from the government for solar. As we mentioned earlier, there is no feed-in tariff. There are no taxation benefits. Even previously, solar products and equipment was exempt of license requirements prior to April this year. But from April this year, there's a new regulation whereas a license is needed to import solar equipment, basically. So that's another complication that we have, in addition to the fact that for any payments for equipment and materials, we have to get an approval from the central bank, with a few exceptions, of course. So no incentives so far, and moreover, as far as utility scale is concerned, I think the government will continue throwing those here and there, throwing tenders. There was a big tender that maybe some of the attendees may be aware of. There were 30 projects, about 1 gigawatt of power 2 years ago, before the coup. A lot of those projects were awarded to Chinese developers because of the competitive rates that the Chinese developers bet with. Now, after that, after the coup, there was another tender, and there was also a mixed tender between solar and gas, solar gas. So I think this will continue. Now the question is, where will it go, and how how confident investors are in the current environment? I think the opportunity might be there with for the Chinese developers, of course. Now the rest of the investors, I think it's quite closed at the moment.
So let's just stay at the tender there. When you say the rest of the developers, it was a near, we also looked at the bid back in 2019, or 20, sorry. It was a nearly purely Chinese uh, uh, exercise, and out of the 150 bids for the 30 sites or substations, I would guess that in reality, the Chinese backing was at least 120 of those.
Yeah, yeah. Um, it was a big win for the Chinese. However, realistically speaking, those projects have not been developed either.
No, they probably have not been developed, but there are quite some Chinese developers that feel that they've lost a lot of money under the bidding, uh, is what I hear. Very good. Priyanshi,
Yes.
I think we've covered that. If Rajapat is not fully agreeing, then I think we can move on to the next one. Yes, this is important. This is probably mostly focused on utility scale, because as there is no feed-in tariff from rooftop solar, then curtailment makes no sense. Um, who should answer that? So this is like the school teacher where everybody's sitting trying not to be seen. Alan, is that something that you would take a stab at? Curtailment risk and grid access, and I would say that's utility scale based.
Sure. I mean, I'll give my opinion, but it's really, I'm going to answer the question by saying that the question almost doesn't make sense based on exactly what you said, which is nobody, or and what Natalie said, which is nobody is going, no non-Chinese investor or non-crony investor is going to consider a utility scale project in Myanmar now. It's I think it's the companies that I've heard who've been awarded the projects in the tenders post coup are all local conglomerates with no solar experience that may or may not have some Chinese backing, and so for those folks, I don't, is there curtailment risk? Probably. What's the value of a PPA with Naypyidaw today anyway, right? Curtailment or no curtailment. So I think you could probably write whatever you wanted in the PPA. I don't think that it would be it would have a lot of meaning. But from a purely technical perspective, yeah, absolutely, there's probably going to be curtailment risk because of all kinds of technical issues.
And in the 2020 bidding round, of course, we had to bid before we were allowed to negotiate the PPA. What were you pricing? Normally, I always say the price is the last thing to discuss. First, we negotiate the PPA, so we have the structure, and then we put a price on it where both buyer and seller is happy. But this was a little bit done the other way around. Priyanshi?
Yes, sir. So we have two more questions.
So then I would like to talk to Vin about this, because we've just heard Alan and Natalie about foreign investors. So is Vin still there,
No, he's not with us.
or was he taken to the Hospital of Tropical Disease in Hanoi? No. Okay, then Bijandra, could you weigh in on this? Foreign investors. What is the scope for them, for us, in the coming years?
Uh, as far as foreign investment is concerned, unless it's a grant, what it requires, at least in my opinion, is a very clear policy, and I think that's what is lacking here in Myanmar. So for foreign investment, the fundamental requirement is the very clear policy. And without that, I don't see much possibility of for foreign investment.
Okay, there's not a lot where we're saying that this is a market that's about to take off. However, to draw a parallel to 2018 in Vietnam, that was exactly the same sentiment that there was there, and then it just said boom, and all of a sudden there was solar everywhere, to an extent that it's now being considered to put a ban on further solar in Vietnam for the next 5 years. So sometimes it is darkest before the dawn. Let's keep that as a positive note for now.
Sure. And
Priyanshi, there was
add one
yes.
more thing besides the clear policy. I guess, apart from the clear policy from the government, I guess there should be also some sort of an incentive in the form of like a relaxation of taxes or like duties, or some sort of like a viability gap, funding mechanism, mainly in the something like generation based incentive. If something like this would be in place, I think I see some possibility of foreign investment. Otherwise, it is looking very difficult.
Okay, very good. Priyanshi. Oh, we got more. Sorry.
Yeah, this is the last question.
Uh, yeah, and I think after that we just throw it open to the audience in case there are any last minute questions. That's always okay.
We have got one more question after this. So after that, we can
Yeah.
wind up the session.
Ricardo, would you say a little bit about structure installation on roof of houses? That's we'll take this as a residential segment.
Yeah, thank you, Thomas. For these questions, to be frankly, I have been to Myanmar for. It's my first time to Myanmar, and I have stayed here for almost 1 month. So for that part, the solar frame and the structure installation on the rooftop. So far as my understanding that for the rural area that people cannot access to the main power transmission line, so they prefer to use that means off-grid the solar system plus the energy storage. In that case, they can extend their power supply. I mean by themselves. That in rural station. But for the some house city like Yangon, Mandalay, Naypyidaw, yeah, lots of C&I that opportunities, including the commercial buildings, the owners, and also some factories. But the current the power supply is not so much stable. So for that part, that some owners want to install that. The power system, I mean rooftop, C&I rooftop system, but some people they don't know the clearly about the system, so they need the turnkey solutions. For this point, I think for the end user should work with the integrated EPC. I mean, who can provide the turnkey solutions. I mean, to work properly and provide the better solutions, including what's about the power consumption per hours, and also the monthly consumption, and the layout of the rooftop or some other things like that. And also in some faraway area like that Myanmar has a long border with Thailand. At that part, I think the power supply also is in shortage. So some I know some friends that they have the factory or some farming or some fishing pool like that. So they use the diesel generator. So for that part, the better option is the hybrid inverter system. I mean, the diesel generators plus the solar, even the plus the energy. In that case, that can save the cost and also the the returns of the investment maybe just 4 years or 5 years, because the diesel generator the cost is about 27 or even 30 cents in currently, and even the diesel and some other petrol is also in shortage. So for this frame that I think the hybrid inverters plus the diesel or plus the energy storage is a better option for this kind of client. Thank you.
Thank you, Ricardo. Priyanshi, did you say that there was one question left?
Yes, this is the last question.
That I think we should open up to the floor. So I will not point at one specific, but to get to net zero for Myanmar, which is something that many countries have openly expressed, what do you call it, ambitions on or plans on. Who would like to take a stab at that one? Best to be voluntary.
I think let me try and start, and we can
Thank you,
have more
Natalie.
comments as we go along. I think the net zero ambition is something which is necessary for the countries in the region. I think when it comes to the ambition of Myanmar to reach net zero, it would, of course, depend on the commitment of the authorities to reach there. There are exemplary governments around the region, around Southeast Asia, such as, of course, Singapore. Singapore is leading the way on the same. Vietnam is doing great. Indonesia has fantastic plans for de-dieselization. Thailand has very ambitious targets as well for solar and renewable energy. I think Myanmar, unfortunately, so far is still lagging behind. And I think for Myanmar, as for many economies, developing economies, the question of reaching net zero would really depend on the cost of reaching there. So if it is economically viable, if it is sustainable for the country, and the cost is not high, then the country will shift towards net zero. And I believe, of course, the government has a big part to play there. But there are also private actors which could start the movement, such as big corporations, and whichever multinationals are present in Myanmar should aim to reduce their emissions.
Yes, and obviously, when there is not a big set of incentives, which we have discussed quite a bit today, then of course a multinational shifting towards net zero is not taking anything from the state budget as such, which is the opposite of what the situation is in Vietnam, where the great push towards renewables, 20 gigawatts of solar, 8 gigawatts of wind, all in the last 5 years, ostensibly, actually put a future bill for purchasing power of about $120 billion onto the state utility. Obviously, they will get power for that money. But again, that's an awful big purchase order to just throw out in a couple of years for a billion dollar economy. That's a very big bill to put out there. So obviously, Myanmar would not be in that situation if multinationals they keep on pushing towards net zero, rooftop solar, some form of direct power purchase, process heat, changing that to biomass. We must be able to find some biomass in such a big country, for crying out loud. Very good. Are there any final wise words that anybody wants to get in before I hand back to Priyanshi? Then I think we would like to thank the panelists very much for an engaged conversation, and thank once again first you and especially Priyanshi for excellent organization. Thank you.
Thank you very much to all our esteemed panelists for this wonderful session, and a very special thanks to you, Thomas sir, for superbly managing the session. Your industry insight and charismatic ability to engage both the audience and the speakers brought the session to life, making them more informative, thought provoking, and insightful as well. So, once again, thank you everyone, and thank you all the audience for extending your time and support. We promise to come back with more such exciting topics really soon. Till then, bye from our end, and please do take care. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye. Bye, guys.